uh, start it. So we can't make any actions or anything like that. We can just go on by work session right now. So who wants to start as far as time? Dennis, do you want to start?
I sure would like to. Yeah. Um, I don't, I don't have a lot, but I think what I have will be important. This first issue is not a big deal. I'm looking at Exhibit A, page 1, paragraph 2. Permit holder information is just a typo. It talks about town manager. Um, we don't have town manager, we have mayor. And so I think that should be corrected. I think that should be corrected.
Okay.
Trustee, where specifically was that? Did I miss
It
sure?
was under Exhibit A, the discharge permit, page 1, item 2, permit holder information, contact person, party permit compliance, town manager, should say, I guess, either town of Crestone or mayor.
Okay, so all references to town manager should be changed to mayor. Okay.
Yeah.
I was supposed to say blindness is on an ambient basis.
The on the recitals, page 3, item 4,
Discharge permit still, Dennis?
no, this is on the recitals.
Oh, recitals.
Yep. The last sentence of I'm sorry, I jumped ahead. Yes, the same page 3, item 4, in that wastewater treatment plant upgrades and expansion. I don't know how necessary it is, but there's no mention of the 60,000 gallon day as being a benchmark that we meet or exceed before we run out of our allotment. My comment is, if we have only used, let's say, half of that amount, but the Baca has used up everything and there's need for expansion of the plant, if we still have, let's say, for example, 30,000 gallon of unused allotment, why would we even consider paying for any upgrade to the plant or expansion of the plant, unless it was something that was necessary to make treatment better? That part I understand. But as far as just having capacity, we would still theoretically have 30,000 gallons of allotment left. I hope I said that correctly. And maybe because it is in the discharge permit, I don't know if that helps or needs to be clarified better. And I wish we had more board members there, but I would ask Benjamin and Brent, yours as well, and Sean, if you're there.
Well,
and of course, Ariel.
I don't know if the 60,000 gallons necessarily determines, it is our limit, but that doesn't mean that they're going to have their own limit to what they can get to before they have to expand. And we might not get to 60,000 yet as far as our our limit. So it's going to be more up to them to decide what their increase is going to be as opposed to based on us. If that's what you're trying to say, like that basically we wouldn't have they wouldn't have expansion until we reach 60,000. Is that kind of what you're talking about, Dennis?
No, what I'm saying is we wouldn't need to participate in any cost of expansion if we never met or exceeded that amount. Even if they may have used up the rest of the capacity of the plant, said we've got to expand.
Determined by the district engineer.
Using the 60,000 as basically, if we don't ever reach that 60,000, this was just a talk between us, that if we didn't ever reach the 60,000 limit, that until we reached that we really didn't have any obligation to participate in the expansion, since we are probably not contributing to the need for that. That's what I got from it. But it's not very clear in there if that's what we want to do or not. But I think Dennis was bringing that up, and do we want to? Do we need to make that 60,000 number a cutoff, or basically that's when the agreement says yes, you're eligible, or you're required to participate in the expansion.
Yeah, that's another way of putting it.
Will you let Kizen and Ariel, please?
Yeah, I've admitted them.
Okay.
Yeah, and I know Ariel and I have been talking. Brent and I spend Tuesday and Wednesday several hours kicking stuff around that is related to the agreement, but in a bit of a different way. And I'll bring that up in a short time here. But if I recall, and I don't know where I read it, there is a mechanism in here that if any party has found good cause to renegotiate or bring up some corrections or whatever, or modifications to the agreement, that's possible to do. Did I read that right, Seth? Seth, on my screen, you're showing that you're muted.
Yeah, I'm sorry, trustee. I had to step
you're
out
there.
for
Okay.
a minute
You're
there.
Yeah,
I did
you
step
too.
out for a minute there, so I did miss part of that.
So I mean, I'm not getting that 60,000. If we don't hit 60,000, that somehow we don't have to contribute. I don't think that was I don't think that was what they were trying to, say. I think that what they're trying to say is that if they start hitting a point where they're getting to if they're getting to a point where they have to expand, that they're going to take a year's worth of our usage and span it out over a period of the year, and then decide whether how much our contribution is based on that.
Right. I read that too.
Not whether we're hitting a limit or not.
Mayor, that is my understanding also. The 60,000 is simply a maximum amount of gallons per day. It is not a requirement or a factor that would be taken into plant expansion. That's just what the maximum amount they could treat per day from the town.
Right. So I wonder if we're saying the same thing. So if at a point where they find that the plant may need to be expanded, they're going to evaluate over a year's use, last year's use, highest year's use of our effluent, and from that calculation decide how much in cost we're going to have to pay. Is that right?
Yes, there in section 4, if I was to paraphrase, the prior 12 months, the preceding 12 months would be looked at. That would determine a percentage. The numbers that are in there now are just estimates. And for example, of the town share versus the Baca Grande share of inflow into the plant. Once again, trying to use simple numbers. If the town is found to have an input of 30% of the total inflow for the preceding 12 months, Baca Grande would be asking the town to fund 30% of the plant expansions. It's plant expansion.
And if there was no growth, no additional sewage put in on our end,
What do you mean by no?
if,
I mean,
if,
the town has a flow. The town has a flow, and that would be compared to the percent of the flow coming into the plant from the town of
Tim,
Crestone
you got to get on
versus from the
Zoom.
Baca.
so if,
Okay.
I want to understand this correctly.
Hey, I'm going to call this meeting to order. This was going from work session because we didn't have a quorum into an actual special meeting. So I'm calling it to order. Aria, will you quickly do a roll call?
Absolutely. Mayor Byer,
Here.
Trustee Poslusny,
Here,
Trustee Lakai,
Here.
Trustee Mamonakis,
Here.
and also in attendance are Town Clerk Blackwell and Attorney Seth Walker.
Kim is trying to get on. They're getting the Zoom call.
Perfect. Dana, Trustee Oglesby is absent with notice, as is Trustee Kinney.
Okay, and then we're gonna not do a vision statement for this special meeting. We're gonna skip over to approval of agenda. Anything that needs to be added? Are we adding the letter that was written? Ariel?
Yes, I believe that Brent, you want to add the letter?
I think so.
I'm adding a letter that was written in response to a complaint that we had. We can deal with that. Though Seth only has 20 more minutes, so we're gonna have to work through this quickly.
And Mayor,
Next,
I just need to get a document filed. I will be back on as soon as I can after that.
okay.
I guess to clarify in simple words, if it's okay if I can proceed, Mayor?
Yeah, as for the agenda,
Oh, you want to vote on the agenda?
we need to get through the first few items of the agenda
Okay, make a motion that we approve the agenda as submitted,
as amended.
amended.
Is there a second?
A second.
Sean? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Next, we're gonna move to approval of the minutes, which we don't have right now. They will be at the regular meeting. 6 is citizens' comments.
This is Warren Stephen.
Okay.
I object to this whole meeting. This meeting was posted and should have been available to the public. You're denying the public that access, especially after not having it start on time. I find this whole thing irregular and not appropriate. And I think that you're making big mistakes again. If you're looking for transparency and credibility, you're lacking it on multiple areas.
Thank you. Citizens' comments.
Yeah, this is Dan Gray. I guess what really gets me is back in 2002 when they the town of Crestone and Baca Grande did AIG, the IGA, that they neglected to include or look at in our rules and regulations, the Baca rules and regulations. It would be necessary if we were going to provide service to Crestone, that Crestone be included in our district, annexed in our district. And then if you look at this agreement, it says that that you need to, in this agreement, abide by the rules and regulations of the Baca Grande Water and Sanitation District. And I can read it to you if you need to. I sent all this stuff to you, and that it clearly states that in order for the Baca to provide wastewater treatment, that the Crestone needed to be annexed into our district. And that's important because if you were, you would pay property tax like we do in the Baca. And we pay a hell of a lot of property tax to the Baca Water and Sanitation District. And we cover all the expenses, all the loans, and we're treating Crestone like a customer, and you should be treated like a partner, which means you should be paying a percentage of what it costs to provide the service for you. And I know if you read those booklets that I sent you from the Department of Local Government, it does say that we can provide service outside the district, but it makes it very, very clear that it should include all and any cost in providing that wastewater service. But I go back to 2002, and my claim is that this is an illegal deal to begin with because Crestone was not included in our district. And the Baca Grande has been very opaque about this whole discussion, and I think it's kind of shady. And they didn't do a public meeting to let everybody know what's going on in our district. And this is a tax increase. I mean, we have rights under Tabor to vote on tax increases. And once you bring the Living Wisdom online and all the other things you have online, it's an increase for the citizens of the Baca Grande. And it's really clear even in this new report. Oh God, I forgot my train of thought. But anyway, that's my major point, is that the Crestone should be annexed into our district, and then that would give you representation on the board. You'd be paying your fair amount to the cost. And because this, like I said again, this is a tax increase for the citizens of the Baca Grande. All right.
Thank you.
Is Daniel still on?
Yeah.
Hey, Daniel, so who made the deal in 2002 to take Crestone as a customer?
Well, in 2002, I mean, it was never even discussed. I mean, that was the law of the land in 2002, that the only way that the Baca could give wastewater treatment service is if the area was in our district, and you're not in our district. You should have
like a county. Was it a county law?
No, it's a state law, and it's
State law.
If you go to the, it's right here. I can read it to you. I mean, it's so crystal clear that, the intention in the beginning was that the Baca Grande would have to annex anybody into our district to provide our service, and they just totally ignored that, and it's costing us a fortune.
So the Baca people back then ignored it when they signed the deal with Crestone, or
that's correct.
Yeah.
Hey, Sean, we're in citizens' comments. We're not really supposed to reply.
Oh, sorry.
Okay. Yes.
I just don't know much about it.
We're going to move on real quick. We're going to skip ahead to old business after all citizens have spoken.
Okay, thanks.
That's what addressed this. The attorney. I mean, it was his office that allowed this first agreement to, get passed.
Well, let's move on to old business, and that's the IGA, and then we can discuss it a little bit more. And the attorney can comment on that, if so, please, if he wants to.
Yeah, I'm curious to hear.
Okay, back where I was, I think I've got the answer to my question on the last two sentences of that paragraph 4. I think I understand it better. The last thing I have, other than a comment, is on page 4, paragraph, for item 7. It's the last sentence. it says the town shall collect and remit to the district that fee that they were talking about, I think, which was 50% of their tap-on fee. I don't think the town should be the bank for Baca. They should do their own collection. And all the customer has to do then is come back to the town if they're requesting a permit to construct something that's going to tap the sewer, show that they've paid the fees to Baca, and then we would go ahead and attach our fees and issue whatever permits we needed to issue. Our staff doesn't need any additional work, and that would be their bookkeeping. And I could see if, for example, a payment of that fee was received by our town, we cash the check and then try to send the money over to Baca if it went, and then all of a sudden the check comes back on with insufficient funds, and we'd have to deal with that situation, trying to recoup money from them or whatever, and it would just be a mess. So if we could just say that Baca would be responsible for collecting their own fees, not us, that would be fine with me.
Yes, Kizen?
I tend to, just as a staff member, I tend to agree that if the Baca is requesting,
Excuse me, I have the floor, Brent.
so sorry.
I disagree with you, Dennis, on that, because all throughout this agreement, we have put firewalls up to recognize the basically the sovereignty of two different districts. We're the town of Crestone, and the Baca is their own legal entity. And we do not want to have another outside entity have the ability to tax or put liens against or whatever, have any way of dealing with the customers. These are the town of Crestone customers. And this is an impact fee that the town of Crestone is actually collecting in order to compensate Baca Water and Sand for that's impact. And I think for any kind of financial dealings, whether it's how much sewage is being used, any sort of thing, that it's the town that collects the money from their own customers, and we're not giving an outside district any authority to either collect, or if they don't collect, to take legal action against the customers within our own, basically, water and sewer district within the town of Crestone. So I don't think we should give that to them. Who knows, the town might be making its own arrangements with those particular individuals. There could be grants for certain types of facilities that are being built, but I think this should remain under the purview of the town of Crestone and not be collected by the Baca.
Okay, I have a question, Kism, because I want to make sure I understand what you're saying. Are you saying that you're against the surcharge of 50% of the tap-on fee?
No, I'm saying I'm against having the Baca collected directly from anybody in the town of Crestone. I think that this is something that the town would collect from an individual or business, whatever, within the town. And the town then gives that impact Baca. I don't want to see the Baca district have any authority to collect money out of users in the town of Crestone. I don't want them to have that authority in our town. But we will recognize that for everybody who's hooking up, that they are going to be paying this impact fee. But the town, just like its bills, it collects its own bills. It can make its own arrangements with whoever the customers are. Because what happens if somebody doesn't pay? Then we're giving the Baca Water and Sand District legal authority to act against our customers. I'd rather that the town become its own firewall. We collect that impact fee and we send it to the Baca.
Here's DORA, Department of Regulatory Agency, requires that when a permit is being requested to build a home, for example, in Crestone. And we don't have a building code, but they require the person requesting the permit, if they're going to have electric and plumbing, they get their electric and plumbing permits from DORA. They're supposed to show those permits or that they've paid for those permits to our offices before we issue a building permit for the home. I see this as something very similar. And they do their own permit issuance on that electric and plumbing permit. They set their own fees. The petitioner for the permit shows that to the town that they've paid those fees. And then if everything is ordered, we attach our amounts, and then it's all said and done. And that works very, very fine. That works across the state very, very well.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying, Dennis, but I think there again, it is our water and sanitation district. It's the town of Crestone Water and Sanitation District. We own everything within the town. And if somebody's going to be building, we do the inspections and make arrangements or approve the connections and taps into our system. We have control of it. And I feel like it should be up to the town to collect that money and have it go to the BACA. I just feel like when we were putting together this whole proposal before, we were having to come up with, the BACA was wanting to collect tap fees. And it's like, the tap fees belong to the town, and it's up to the town to decide what they're going to do. Or they also wanted, in an earlier version of this agreement, be able to, if somebody didn't pay their bill, for them to be able to shut down that person or stop their sewage if that person didn't pay their bill. We made it very clear that it's the town is its own, we are our own entity, and the BACA is its own entity. We are not just a customer, as being said. We are our own, this is an intergovernmental agreement between two governing agencies. And I feel like as that governing agency, it should be our responsibility to collect that impact fee and give it to the BACA. And it's not like we're going to have hundreds a week. This is not a big onerous sort of thing, but it does maintain that we are two separate legal governing entities, and we are responsible for collecting from our own customers. So I just feel like it's a bad policy to set that up and give another agency the power to do collections on our citizens within our own legally owned district. So I feel the way it's written to where the town collects it is the way it should go.
If that's the case, then we're going to, and that's fine. I kind of agree with that. I would say to send one of our customers per se over to BACA Water and Sanitation to pay a fee, and then they're going to have some kind of way, something that states that they've paid, and then bring it back to us. And it might actually increase the amount of work on us, because then we're waiting on them, where in our case, we could accept the money. We could have a resolution, I guess, that states that has to happen. And then we would wait until a check clears. We make sure that everything clears. It would have to go maybe into a separate fund or into a special place that it's held, that holds it. And then we would pay BACA as though we were, we're basically following this agreement, as stated that we need to cover that fee or whatever it is. So I think adding in the BACA might actually make it more difficult on us in the long run. Having them take care of a payment and then getting back to us, and then we have to check on it. If we keep it in-house until then, I think we have more control, like Kizen's saying. But there might be I don't know. I mean, other reasons not to do it that way, but I think it should be an in-house process. And I think we should have it set in, would it be a resolution, Seth?
It sounds to me like it's more of an administrative step. To have a water and sewer tap go in, one, your town fees have to be paid. Two, the impact fee has to be paid. Three, there will be a 10-day waiting period for any checks issued to clear if that's something you need to do. But that's just an administrative
I'm saying,
procedure.
is it a resolution to add that extra fee onto the permit for a sewer tap?
Yes, that would go through the resolution process to update and amend our fee schedule.
So we would have to do that right away after signing this. Dennis, do you want to argue? Do you want to argue another point on that?
No, it was just something that I thought was going to be easier on our accounting system. One less thing that either the treasurer clerk or the deputy clerk had to deal with. And that's really all it is.
I think it's going to be almost the same amount of work. Just trying to figure out how to, communicate with the BACA and go back and forth. It's almost like we can start the whole process in-house, like Kizen's saying, and then continue it all the way through, making sure that payment is cleared. And then as Seth was saying, it would be just an administrative processing.
Yeah, I mean, I seem like if we know that this is what the BACA is charging, this is what their amount is, it's X amount of dollars, okay, and this is what our agreed upon amount for like single family residents versus rather than commercial. This is what it is, and it's just like anything. It's part of the checklist and part of that process of being able to tap into the sewer line would be that here's their check made out to Baca Water and Sanitation District, check. And, and the town can then let the Baca know, the location of this new construction and what its use is for. And here's the impact fee. And I just think that's something that the town should handle. Finding ourselves with ways as well, which might be commercial or multifamily or any number of different things. And I think that should fall on the town's chest.
I have just one last thing, and it's not any change to either the discharge permit or recitals. Is I think Baca is already charging us the new rate. And Ariel, Brent, if you could check that, I think they did in the last invoice. Brent and I on Tuesday and Wednesday spent a lot of time trying to go through the meter readings, and I know, and I talked with Seth as well about it. Everyone knows that we're reading lower than Baca's reading. The Baca's reading higher. And we tried to figure out national standards and all that stuff. And something's not right. I don't know if we're somewhere in the middle on the readings, if they're a little bit high and we're low, so what I'm getting at, we need to do as quickly as we can, get this thing resolved. Because the longer it goes, if there is a problem with their meter or ours, we need to know it. It's just going to get worse. It's not going to get better. So I don't know if now is the right time or we'll wait till the next regular board meeting. But Brent had put together some stuff. It was in the packet, and I think, Brent, you tell me if I'm correct or not. We're looking at not not getting another meter, but getting a third party in and doing some readings at Baca's meter location, and then resetting up and doing a series of readings at our location, and then seeing what the difference is and why that difference is being created. Because that person will be using only one machine, not two different machines. Did I phrase that right, Brent?
Yes, that's correct. Yeah,
Okay.
that would verify that would verify both of our meters, and it would also it would help us indicate, and one step in the troubleshooting that we don't know is if we have any I between the two meters. And if we did install a third meter and put it at both sites for a period of time, that would number one, it would verify the meters. Number two, it would verify that we don't have any I between this. I think it's 400 feet between the two sites. So it would eliminate those two possibilities. That would be just a logical step in our troubleshooting in order to get to what we don't know exactly what's going on. We don't know. I mean, we have a good idea, and I'll have to say, I believe that we have a meter that was, it doesn't have a good technology for the town of Crestone. It doesn't have the low flow capability that we need for Crestone. We're not a high use, and once this level drops below a certain 1 inch, this meter is really, both technicians have told me this, that this is the weakness of this particular technology. And just like I've run the numbers with the ORC at the Baca Grande, I've run the numbers alone, and I've run the numbers with Dennis. And I sent Dennis a letter explaining these industry standard numbers. The industry standard numbers fall right in line with what the Baca flow meter is indicating. So now, but there are things that we have not completely eliminated. But I would have to say, my conclusion is, if as of right now, we don't have any reason not to believe, or not to trust, or not to go with the Baca flow meters numbers. There's no reason not to. They fall straight in line with my calculations, with the ORC's calculations, and I've run these numbers several times, and there's just no reason. So right now, I think we're good. We do have some things that we need to look at in order to understand what the discrepancy is between the two meters. But it's not anything that's holding up the system or causing any distress anywhere between the two systems. So that's my take on it.
Well, so I'm going to be asking the board to allow Brent to go ahead and proceed with the Baca's ORC in arranging to have the system that he's talking about to evaluate the meters and get it straightened out. And then we can determine, after he does that, we can determine, I guess, if we should go ahead and I guess, Brent, what it would come down to is we would have to change out our meter again. Is that right?
Well, if we determined that the meter was if it was in fact performing as I suspect, and as the ORC in Baca suspects, and as the two technicians that we have hired expect, yeah, we would need to look at a different type of meter with a different technology. Yes. Yes, Kevin.
So I saw a change in this agreement on page 2, and towards the bottom of that large lower paragraph, we have that language about there would be 2 meters, town's meter, district meters. If there was a discrepancy, there would be this whole process. And it says here that instead of this, that the district and the town shall split the cost of installing the most accurate meter available to measure gallons of flow. Calibration of this meter will be performed jointly by the parties, and thereafter the gallons of flow, et cetera, but it will be measured by the new meter, and which measurement shall be binding and conclusive to the parties. In the event the town has reasonable grounds to believe that the new meter needs to be recalibrated, the parties shall jointly. It's language that was changed where they're looking at having just one meter, the highest, not the best and newest, and we all agree to go by the readings of that particular meter, and the third party is going to be the ones that make sure it's accurate. So that's a whole change in the agreement. So do we want to do that? Have one fancy meter that we both abide by? Because that's new in this final agreement.
It's the best and newest, like the most expensive meter for sale in the world, you know? Is that,
I don't
Is
know.
Is
The
that,
older-
Kism, is
Yeah,
that
the
what you're,
older agreement said that we're gonna be the Bacchus meter, the town's meter, and we're gonna go with the Bacchus meter unless we were seeing a discrepancy of like 20% or something like this, and then we were gonna split the difference, and if it was more of that, we had a right to appeal and all of this, but that language is not in this new agreement. They're talking about a one
are you
one
saying
meter
what Brent
that
is saying? Because what that would be is us to try to determine where the problem is at, not that we would just have this one meter.
This is a troubleshooting issue. We have not thoroughly troubleshot what this. We know we have a discrepancy, but these are the steps that we need to go through. The BACA has agreed to split the cost of this third meter. This is a temporary meter that goes in and verifies. This is a step in troubleshooting so that we understand we can't move forward with anything in regards to which meter to use until we understand why we have the discrepancy. We don't know yet. So what Dennis is talking about is, and I think what he was initially proposing is that Chad has agreed along with the district that we would split the cost. And I've already spoken with these technicians about doing this, and so is Chad, of the same technicians, about installing a temporary meter at a cost. I think we figured it about $6,000, but it could be a little more because I've also determined that we have to install not in just one location, but in two. Say about 10 days to get a good idea of what we need to do. But in order to really settle this as far as what's going on with the meters, we have to install a third party meter, and that like I said before, that will determine if we have an incorrect meter reading, or if perhaps it would help us move to be able to identify maybe an I, which we have. So this is just a step in troubleshooting. Ultimately, we'll be able to decide once we do this. We'll be able to decide which meter we want to use in whatever the agreement might be.
I don't think that this necessarily slows down this contract, because basically, we've been using their meter. If for some reason there's a discrepancy when they put in the third meter, we're going to have to just work that out with them. We're not going to be able to do anything else. Our meter is definitely not working properly. That's what we've kind of determined, right, Brent?
Everything indicates that we have an issue with our meter, yes.
Right. And it's a new meter, and it's not something that, right now we just have to go with what the BACA says. Now, if there's a discrepancy, maybe we have to go back, and really renegotiate with them on our bills eventually. If like we're getting a third party and they're saying, it's 20% less than we thought, then we're going to have to figure that out. But if we switch meters or do anything like that, then it's going to cause more of a problem, I think, in the long run.
Yeah, and that's why I wanted to bring it up. It is an issue.
Yeah.
We'll continue to pay the bills. Don't want to get in the rears with Baca on what they've been sending us. But now that everyone's aware, I think everyone understands what we're trying to do. And it's something that Brent and Chad from Baca should, if it's okay with the rest of you guys, is that we let them proceed and do what they need to do and report back to us. But you're right, Mayor. It's not intent to hold up the signing of this agreement at all. It just needs to be done.
Mm-hmm. Yes,
So
Kizan.
to me, I don't personally find a problem with this new situation. It basically says there's going to be one really good meter. Both the town and the Baca will calibrate it. And if the town has reasonable grounds to believe that the new meter needs to be recalibrated, the parties shall jointly recalibrate the meter. And it also has a independent third-party lab that can be referred to on these determinations. So I think if there's a nice, new, high-quality meter that both parties agree upon, to me, this actually seems like it makes it a lot.
Well, I think that's the idea, is that we don't want to have to buy a third meter until we go through the process of seeing if the, basically not calibrating, but finding a third party to actually test the flow and the BODs and all that with a third party company, and then see where it lines up with the Baca's meter. And then obviously we need to get our meter worked out as well. But that's another story. I don't think we're going to want to spend, $30,000 or whatever it's going to cost to get another third meter. I think we should spend less and get a third party out there to see where everything's at.
So are you comfortable with the language as written?
Yeah, I do think it's fine. I don't think this contract gets in the way of that. I just think that eventually and sooner than later, we need to have a third party come out and do this test just to see where we're at. I mean, I'm not saying that there is any INI in that section between basically Golden Street and the kiosk, but until we have a third party on it, we won't know. And if Brent's saying that most likely there isn't any INI, but again, it's kind of like something that we should be able
to rule it out.
Rule it out.
Sure. Yeah.
So I'm happy with letting that language stand, and I feel like if there's nothing in that language that stops us at any point for putting in our own meter somewhere along that line, so that we can also have our own monitoring if we feel like we need it. But I think this language with a nice new meter that everybody is, calibrating together, and there's a third party keeping an eye on what's going on with it, to me seems very workable. And I'm happy with the language as is written, if Seth agrees. We were just talking, Seth, about on page 2 of that agreement of just, instead of having each their own one quality meter, and that the town and the Baca will basically be kind of monitoring it together. That's kind of the new language in this.
No, we're not going to change the language. We're leaving it as it is. That is what I understand. I think Brent understands as well. is that reading allows us to do exactly what we're asking to do, not to change the way their meter is and our meter is. It's bringing in a third party with a separate meter to calculate what the flows are at their location and our location. Is that right, Brent?
That's exactly right. Yes, and they'll use a third technology in addition to that. So this technology is basically we both have limits in our technologies of our meters, and this third type of technology does not have this weakness. So we would actually, but it's not something that we have spec'd in either one of our existing meters, but it's a way that we can temporarily verify both of the meters.
Yeah, Kism, it's not going to replace it. We're just going to use this service to help both Baca and ourselves figure out what the problem is. That's all.
Simply a troubleshooting step.
Right.
Yes.
So it'd be like a 10-day temporary meter
Yes.
to see if ours needs to be recalibrated or the Bacas or none or.
I don't know. Well, I mean, whatever. We don't know what it is. Like I said, it will determine two things. It will determine what are the correct flows at both sites, and it will determine. And then with that, we can extrapolate if we have any I&I. It will indicate if we have, and that's if we have any I&I between the two sites. It will do those two things.
Okay.
Yeah, I&I is the infiltration.
That's what we have to do in order to move forward. It's just a logical process.
So if we're okay on that, there's another question I have on this agreement.
Okay, go ahead.
All right. So on page 3, under item 4, towards the end of that paragraph, there is a sentence that starts, the cost of constructing any additional capacity beyond what is determined by the district engineer to be needed to accommodate future growth within the town and the district at the time of commencement of any upgrade, expansion, or replacement of the district's wastewater treatment facility shall be paid for exclusively by the district. That long, convoluted sentence makes no sense. And I would ask our attorney to look at it. It's either missing punctuation, but it says the cost of constructing any
Mayor,
capacity.
if I may, that long convoluted sentence was added by Mr. Locke at the request of the board to try to delineate the additional cost of any potential town
right
or Baca
and
growth.
It's the only part of the agreement I understood.
Yeah, to me, the way I read this, it says that if it needs, the engineer decides it needs to be future growth, that will be paid exclusively for by the district, which is a great news to us, but I don't think that's what they meant to say.
That
Unless
sentence
I'm
is
reading
trying
it
to
wrong.
say
But to me,
is that if a plant expansion is to be done, that expansion will be for X amount of gallons, for lack of better words. That plant expansion, if it's to be done for X amount of gallons plus additional capacity due to the desire of the district, that would be solely on the district to pay for, not on the town.
and that's what, as I read that, I figured that they were trying to say, but please put your attorney out and take a look at that, because I don't think that it's clear what we think they actually meant.
I don't know how else they could say it.
So it's almost as if they take out, it says the cost of constructing any additional capacity beyond what is determined by the district engineer to be needed to accommodate future growth, I would say within the district, take out in the town, at the time of commitments of any upgrade will be paid for by the district. But it has to accommodate future growth within the town and the district. So I don't think it should be saying within the town. So otherwise it takes away from what I think they were trying to say.
Can I,
Mayor, that sentence is trying to include growth in the town and growth in the district, and anticipated growth in the district would not affect the amount the town has to pay for in a potential expansion.
That's the way
So,
I understood it.
right, so could you untangle that, Seth, and make it say what it is you just said? Because right now I would hate to be a judge looking at that sentence and make sense out of it.
I am trying to take notes. The more changes and edits we have, Mayor.
Yeah. Um, I mean, Kizen, do you
And it
want
might
to?
be,
So the cost of constructing any additional capacity beyond what is determined by the district engineer to be needed to accommodate future growth within the town and the district at the time of commencement of any upgrade, expansion, or replacement of the district's wastewater treatment facility shall be paid for exclusively by the district. It is a little confusing, I must say. I mean, you have to kind of admit that it doesn't really. I mean, Seth, what do you? I mean, do you? I know that it's going to be hard to dissect that. I don't exactly. I don't understand it that well either. But, um, let's see.
Mayor, I can try to work on that. I would not ask that that be off the cuff, if you don't mind.
Yeah, I understand. Any upgrade in the town? Yeah, it's a tricky one. I don't totally see what they're trying to say. I mean, would it be worth taking that?
yeah, if you look, because it could be construed to say to accommodate future growth within the town, that the district's going to bear the cost. And I don't think that's what they want to do.
I think what we would want is that if the town doesn't grow, we don't pay for any expansion. Isn't that what that agreement is saying? That sentence is saying?
No. That is only for a plant expansion that is above and beyond what is needed for the anticipated timely growth of the town and the Baca Grande. If Baca Grande decides to over-engineer, over-expand their plant, they would be solely responsible for that cost above and beyond the cost of the regular plant expansion.
that's what I see. Yeah.
Yeah, I just think there needs to be clarity on that sentence. So, but
So Seth's not going to be at our next meeting. I mean, how do we want to go forward? I mean, it is taking a lot longer since we are, you know, literally we came up with 3 things. They've changed 2 of them. The third one is supposed to be in this sentence here. And I want to make sure that this gets executed pretty soon because it's definitely something that we need to, we can't keep holding it up much longer. And I know we want to get it right, but I'm wondering what's the strategy to get it right and then get it signed and done, because I don't know. What do you think?
I agree
Seth?
with you, Benjamin. I don't, we have not made any substantive changes to this document from what was presented. We seem to be in alignment with everything that we're talking about, which is the meter, yes, is okay. The town, as it had said, that the item number 7, that the town collects the wastewater impact fees, that's how it's written, the town connects it. We're in agreement, I think, finally on that one. And the only thing out of this whole document that I think would need any kind of a change is just that one sentence that I pointed out, and I'm just looking for clarification on that, to where it's just really clear on what it is with, and I would trust our attorney at Mr. Locke to just change that sentence to be very clear on what it is that they're talking about. And with that assurance that they're going to change that one paragraph, it's to their benefit that they do so. I would see us approving this document. I think really everything we've asked for has pretty much, I shouldn't say everything, but most everything that we've asked for is in this agreement. I think it's a very good, very clear, very good work agreement that allows both parties the ability to operate or work. So I think it's a very good agreement. And I agree with you. I think
So,
and so I would ask our attorney, do you feel that before we would vote on this, if we should have that final little adjustment to bridge that out, or what your recommendations to us would be?
Trustee, if I'd respond to that, I might just ask you to read that last sentence again, really taking note of the first line, the cost of constructing any additional capacity beyond what is determined. I think that's what sets that sentence apart. And if you would like me to continue to rework that, I will try to do that.
I would, and
Drug down the street, dog fight.
okay, so what's the strategy? Do we want to have Seth work a little bit more on this and then get back to us in an email and then bring it to the next regular meeting? And then we as a group go through that. I mean, can we as a group agree that besides that sentence, everything else is good? So it's really just reworking that last red line sentence. Yes, Dennis.
I would say I'm fine with that last sentence as well.
Okay. I
I
mean,
think the last sentence is exactly as the attorney describes. I totally am with Seth on this. That's exactly what Seth said. It's exactly what it means. That any future expansion beyond what is needed, we are not responsible for.
Right.
so, and a question for our attorney, is this IGA something that we need to have a public hearing on, or is this something that the board can make a decision on without a public hearing?
This is something the board can make a decision on, and they have already had at least one, if not two, public hearings on the matter.
Okay. So I would suggest, since I feel like this is such an important 20-year document that I would like to see a vote on this be done like at our next public meeting rather than at a Zoom meeting where really the general public, wasn't able to attend or didn't attend or whatever. That I think that it would be good if this was brought forward in a public meeting and any additional comments that were made, and then we could put it to a vote at our regular meeting, unless we feel there's some urgency and we need to have yet again another special meeting. But what's your thoughts on that, Seth? That since this was just a Zoom only meeting.
Legally, I don't think the fact that this is a Zoom meeting is any different from sitting there in person. That is simply what the last 3 or 4 years of the world we've lived in have taught us, and how most of the legal decisions have come down. And as long as we do have interconnectivity between those that are present, we can communicate with each other, we can hear each other. This is a opportunity to take official actions and official steps as a board.
Thank you. So Benjamin, do you think we should go ahead with the vote with this?
Are you willing to that last sentence? Are you willing to agree that that last sentence is okay for this this agreement to be voted on? That, I mean, that sentence is a little bit confusing, but sounds like it's aimed more towards the town benefit anyways, and on some level, that basically they're going to take an assessment of 12 months of our readings. They're going to take an assessment of 12 months of the district's readings. They're going to figure out the exact amount that is, the percentages, and then we would have to contribute accordingly. If for some reason, I mean, how would this sentence affect that if they're saying that they need to have more capacity because of some, because is it saying that that basically, if say we were 25%, they were 75%, and then they said, well, we want to be more ready for another 5 years or something on top of that, is that what it's trying to say, is that they would just pay for that exclusively?
So what I would suggest is our attorney has been looking at this while we've been talking. And I think maybe we can just take a moment and see if Mr. Walker, he verbally said what sounded great. If he can just make a verbal statement that the language will be changed to read this, we could vote to approve it. And if Mr. Locke has an objection, then he could register that objection and, we could revisit it. But I think what Seth has just said verbally just untangled it and sounded good. And if he can just make a statement saying he's going to change this sentence, it's only one
Trustee,
sentence.
I was probably speaking faster than I was thinking. Would you recollect exactly what I said that made it click with you?
I'm sorry, say that again.
I did not write down what I said. Do you recall what words were used that really made you?
I think you just read the line. You just read the line. I didn't see you change any words.
He did. He just made it clearer. That said,
Oh, I guess I want to know exactly what would happen. I'm just trying to put this into perspective of, we get to a point where they're ready to expand. What would trigger them to have to use this line for any, I mean, That's kind of what I want clarity on.
So
So
what
I
we,
cannot
Wait,
speak
wait.
for Baca Grande. An example of how I think the town would use this provision is that if a proposed expansion is to occur and the capacity determined by the engineer in that expansion is to be, and I'm just going to use a figure, say 100,000 gallons. After that report is given to Baca, they make a decision to instead enlarge their plant by 150,000 gallons. Baca would solely be responsible for the additional 50,000 gallons over that determination made by the engineer of 100,000 gallons being the needed number to accommodate the future growth within the town and the district.
Okay. So
That base 100,000 gallons would be paid for by both entities at the preceding 12 months proportion or percentage.
okay. So is that clear to everybody that it's really over the capacity of the district engineer's assessment?
Yes,
So that makes sense to me. I mean, I'm sure that if you brought it to court or something, it could be construed in another way. I guess that's the question, is whether we want to, try to clarify it further, or we want to just go with it and allow for either.
so if I could just do a couple word edit on this, everybody look on this line.
Okay.
It says the cost of constructing any additional capacity beyond what is needed by the town of Crestone, as determined by the district engineer, to be needed to accommodate future growth within the district at the time of commencement of any upgrade, expansion, or replacement of the district's wastewater facility shall be paid for exclusively by the district. So we're saying the cost of construction, any additional capacity beyond what is required by the town of Crestone as determined by the district engineer. And that to accommodate future growth within the district when that commences. So it's just basically a simple edit that says capacity beyond what is needed by the town of Crestone, but it's going to be needed by the Baca. It's on them. So it just says beyond what's needed by the town of Crestone, as determined by the district.
I like that.
And to accommodate future growth within the district at the time of commencement. That makes sense. It's only a few words, but it emphasizes that the district is determining that it's beyond what the town of Crestone needs. It's what the district needs. And with that simple, like a bit of an edit, as our attorney can just rewrite that a little bit to have it make sense. I would make a motion to approve the IGA with a small edit to.
So if we're going to make a motion to approve as amended, I would like to just clearly have that amendment be stated. And Trustee Lakai, it sounded like you had that written down. Could you state that again?
I didn't write it down.
I kind of.
Ariel, help over there.
Well, it's on recording. It's recorded. Cost of construction, any additional capacity beyond what is required for the town of Crestone by the district engineer. I remember that.
The cost of construction, any additional capacity
beyond what is
beyond
is
required
re-
by the town of Crestone as determined by the district engineer to be needed to accommodate future growth within the district at the time of commencement of any upgrade, expansion, or replacement of the district's wastewater treatment facility shall be paid for exclusively by the district.
Does that make sense, everybody? Dennis, does that make sense to you?
Yeah, it really didn't sound too much different than the original writing.
All she's doing really is separating, it out a little bit more into the different entities so that it is more clear, really.
Okay, I'm good
Um,
with that.
Sean?
Sorry, I'm a lifelong editor.
Used to work for a newspaper, huh?
Okay, I would like to make a motion that we approve the intergovernmental agreement for the provision of wastewater treatment services to the town of Crestone. This is an intergovernmental agreement for the provision of wastewater treatment services to the town of Crestone. The agreement is entered into this whatever day of January 2025. Effective date by and between the Baca Grande Water and Sanitation District, the Colorado Special District, the district and the town of Crestone, Colorado, a Colorado Municipal Corporation, the town. The district and the town may be referred to an individual as a party, whatever. And I would like to approve this intergovernmental agreement with a understanding of a small edit for clarity of section 4.
Section 4, paragraph
You need more than that,
7.
7.
Mr.
Is there a second? Dennis, did you second?
Yes, I'll second that. I couldn't repeat it, but I'll second it.
Can I ask one question? Is the Baca board approved this yet, or they have to approve it after us?
There would be a follow-up action by the board of the Vaca Grande to approve this IGA.
Okay. Thanks, sir.
So with amendments, that is based on their approval. So if we amend this line, that's basically has to go to their approval, but we're approving it with our amendment.
Okay,
Mayor,
Has the
may
Baca
I
approved
also-
it without the
Sorry?
amendment? Has the Baca approved this draft yet, like without the amendment, or it's just on us first to approve it?
Vaca
Well,
has not approved of the agreement. However, this agreement is the result of discussion between their attorney and I,
Okay,
and I believe that he would not draft something they would not approve.
that makes sense. Okay, thanks, Seth.
And Mayor, if I may, could we also have a motion regarding the Exhibit A, the discharge permit?
Okay, should we vote on this one first and then the discharge permit after?
Both,
Including both.
either
Okay.
or.
So, Kizan, if you don't mind including the
I
agreement,
will include with
appendix.
my motion to
Exhibit A.
include Exhibit A, the town of Crestone district discharge permit with the Baca Grande Water and Sanitation District.
Amended and
There was a typo with a typo correction.
So the as amended to that Exhibit A would be that the contact person would not be the town manager. That would probably be the town mayor or clerk at your discretion.
I will amend that motion and I would ask our clerk to read back that motion in its entirety now?
Motion to approve the IGA with an understanding of a small edit for clarity to section 4, paragraph 7, which I'm going to have to go back because there was a lot said there. Cost of constructing any additional capacity beyond what is required by the town of Crestone as determined by the district engineer as needed to accommodate the district growth. And then I was not able to capture everything after that.
Yeah.
With the amendment to approve the discharge permit with the Baca Grande water sanitation district, with the typo correction regarding the town mayor inclusion. Or town manager, pardon me.
I make that motion.
Second,
Okay, any more discussion? All in favor?
aye.
Uh,
Aye.
And we have a
Aye.
quorum.
Aye. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
All right, Seth, I think there's a few adjustments, but I think we're going to be
can
moving
I
on.
ask a quick question to Seth?
Go ahead. We're out
It
of,
says, so was that agreement made between the town and the Baca, like, was it 23 years ago, like against state law? Like, or was it against state law for one party or both parties or not at all?
Trustee, I would say that this is a legal agreement between two legal corporations in the state of Colorado.
Okay, thank you.
and that there is, you can look it up in Colorado law that entities and special districts can make separate IGAs with other entities.
Okay, thanks, Benji, and thanks, Seth.
Yeah, I was trying to read basically a memo that's been written. Notwithstanding the district rules, Article XIV, I believe that's 14, Section 18, and CRS 29-1-201 et sec. Authorize the town and the district to enter into simply this sort of IGA that the parties are contemplating between the two.
Okay, thanks, Seth.
Okay. Seth, thank you very much for dealing with this over the past however many months we've been dealing with it, if not years. Congratulations to you, actually, because you've been steadily, improving this and making it, work for all of us. And I think that, it's a good place to be. And we're gonna be able to honor it in a real way.
Well, Mayor, I would just like to say no, it's congratulations to the board. Enjoy using your showers and commodes tonight. Should be able to do so for the next 20 years.
And beyond, hopefully.
And then if I may make a request, board, to our clerk, I will be contacting you if we can just get a little time on Monday to look at this recording and get that language specifically that the board did approve.
Absolutely.
So moving along to the next item, we had talked about complaints and how to deal with complaints. And I would like the attorney to stay on with us if possible. We probably should just keep it very general and not bring in any names of anybody or anything like that. Just we're going to have to deal with this probably at another point, because basically what happened was the clerk or the staff is receiving complaints verbally, and did you get any in letters or written from anybody? Ariel, you're muted.
Sorry, no, we haven't received a written complaint. We've received verbal complaints that were unproductive and disrespectful in nature.
So it's really dealing with how to handle that from a technical point of view, based on the sensitivity of them. We don't want to, create more drama. We want to basically figure out how to deal with abuse to our staff if they're feeling like they're being abused by anybody, including board members, by citizenry, by other staff members, and legal ways of dealing with that, lawful ways. Seth, do you have anything to say about if something comes up like this where we're getting basically abusive complaints?
This is like, sorry.
So, Mayor, I did have a discussion with our clerk about this matter. If complaints rise to the level of verbal threats, intimidation, or abuse, I would like to be notified about that immediately. I did also direct her that if an individual is simply berating them, there is a way to let them know that I would like to speak with you in the future. I will take your name and number down, but at this point in time, our communication has simply broke down, and we do need to call each other back when we have the ability to speak in a manner that is constructive. That may be part of a policy we could work on also, but that was the direction I was given to our clerk last week.
I know that this issue is, ripe in the staff's minds and something that the staff really want to look at and figure out how to deal with. I don't really know exactly how to proceed with it in the best way to make it so that it's fair for everybody involved.
I'm
Tess,
working
was
on a
there any?
proposal for that right now, but what I will say is when people come to us, and we have people come to us angry, and what we do is try to empathize and de-escalate. If we're brought complaints that are reasonable in nature and are something that we can actually work on, we do try to incorporate that into our processes. But if people are going to be verbally abusive, take aggressive tones with us, then all it does is make for an unproductive office, and it just decreases morale. And I would like to remind you guys as a board that you only have 3.5 staff total. We're all overworked. We're all stressed out already. So we need every ounce of productivity that we can muster. So if a complaint comes to us that is unhelpful, unwarranted, unfair, unreasonable, then I'm going to instruct that we follow what Seth said, and we're not going to continue the conversation at that time, and we can continue it when everyone's calmed down.
And do we have any?
We don't deserve to be verbally abused on the daily.
I agree.
Tess, was there any like threatening complaints other than like legal threats, or
No, nothing was
just
threatening.
like
Like I wouldn't say that we need to move forward with any type of like restraining order or trespass order, but
just
you know,
like
I've been in
yelling and
customer
not?
service for
I'm
20
sorry.
years, and some of the way that I've been spoken to in the past year has been completely unacceptable. It's been beyond what I am used to as someone who worked in tech support and got screamed at by multiple people daily.
I understand. Tech support, you can just hang up on them if they're being
No, you
assholes.
can't. You have to sit
But you
there and
can.
you have to listen to it and you have to let it play out. But we don't have to do that here.
I don't know
Seth, is,
exactly what happened, but I'd like to talk to you more some other time.
Sure, I'm happy. I sent an email out to everyone, and you all are more than welcome to reach out to me to talk about it one-on-one. I'm not looking to cause more drama. I'm just looking for a solution moving forward and to have to have more order and efficiency in our office processes as well as our meeting procedures as well. Like,
I remember
I
one
feel the
board meeting.
procedures not being met in either capacity.
I remember one board meeting we had. I could hear a lady like yelling and cursing at Patty. Like I don't know if that was like 6 weeks ago or something like that. Like stuff like that is what you're talking about.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Sean, I think there was a situation that had actually nothing to do. I think that was wasn't city work. I think it was just Patty and this individual had a problem with each other. Is that correct, Ariel? It wasn't necessarily city business?
No, both times that Patty's been screamed at in the office were in regards to town business.
Oh, it
Yeah.
was. Okay. Well, it seems to be a habit that is getting out of control. I see it more and more. I'm tired of it myself. And I would say that I'll support the staff in any way necessary, even if it's a restraining order against anyone or any groups of people. I would be for that 100%. So I would just lean on staff to let us know how this progresses. If it continues, then I'm done with it myself.
Can I ask a question like for Seth too? Can Ariel, like if people are in there yelling at them, can they just tell those people to leave the property and send an email instead if you're gonna act like that? Or is that legal or?
Yes, completely.
Okay, thank you.
So, um, how would the staff like the board to handle this as far as um, I think we have with Seth here, he's not going to be here at our next regular meeting. So this is your kind of our chance to really ask questions about the law and what we can do to protect ourselves against, a type of abuse that is happening, that's really coming from, in my opinion, it's coming from a frustration with the world in general. There's a lot happening in the world, and we're the kind of closest people to be able to um, for people to sort of express or blame or use us as a you know um, punching bag on some level. So it's not appropriate. We have to deal with it, and I would like the staff to figure out what they need from the board in order to make this more effective every day, because we're not around every day. Yes, Brent.
Okay, I've written a letter. I don't know, I've only sent it to Ariel. I outlined exactly what has happened, what I suggest that we do, a course of action, and what will happen. And basically, I'm asking the board to take action. Seth, have you received my letter?
I haven't checked my email.
No, I haven't had time to send it to anyone. I wasn't really prepared to talk about this today, and I've been working on
Right.
other things.
So, so I think the first step would be to send my letter to the attorney, and then I think that would be the logical way to proceed with this, since this is what I've determined is going to require some type of legal action. And that's my letter is my letter is just got sent today. So I believe that's where it probably needs to start, and then we could work it from there. Thanks.
So knowing that Seth is not planning on being at the next meeting, and this is going to get postponed, and the action, we need something today. I guess it would just be, a basic, boundary that we create that says, you know, we're not going to accept this in our workplace, and you know, gathering any kind of evidence that we need to, you know, take that into account, whether it be videoing or whatever it is, to create these boundaries. I mean, this, you know, a lot of times this stuff is very off the cusp. It's not easy to grab your camera and video it, but evidence is really important. And I would just
I
say that
I'm not looking to make any type of like legal action per se. I understand that maybe that's the way Brent wants to proceed, but what I'm asking for particularly is for the board of trustees to back us up when we create processes on how we will handle customer service and complaints, and also to uphold boundaries in our rules and procedures in our meetings as well, like in our public meetings. Like we have public comment in designated areas for a reason. And it's for efficiency, it's for transparency, it's for fairness. It's for, I mean, I could go on all day listing the reasons why, but that's more what I'm looking for from
okay,
my
I
board.
understand. Kizen,
So I think what Ariel's saying, that she really wasn't prepared to speak on this so much today, and is also looking at working up some maybe policy recommendations that we could review, and maybe also talk with our attorney and see what we might want to implement. I think in the meantime that it's important for us to back up our staff, that if somebody is on the phone and they are being rude and abusive, that our staff has a permission to say, I feel like you're being very rude and bullying towards me, and I'm not going to continue this conversation, and hang up. And that employee could do so without suffering reprimand by the board. And
Maybe
the same thing with somebody should come into the office who is being very rude or disruptive, or bullying, that our staff can say, hey, this is how you are making me feel at this moment. I'm going to ask you to leave. Please return when you can have a civil conversation. And that we give our staff the authority to set those boundaries without saying, oh, well, that was a citizen and a customer and you shouldn't have said that to him. I think, no, we need to back up our staff to say if somebody feels like they're being aggressive, or you personally feel threatened, or somebody's really being crossing a line with you, that you have the authority to say so. And I also feel like, especially because we have a couple of women in the office, that if they do feel threatened, that they have some resources that they can call on for help, if they need to, because it can be scary. Um, you know, when you're either a woman or two women alone in an office, and you might have an angry person in your face. So while we're trying to figure out, you know, what would be really good official policy, why don't we acknowledge that our staff has the right to say, I will not be treated this way, and talk to me later when, you know, when you can speak in a civil manner. And so I think
and I
that's
and
most.
I think, Ariel, you're absolutely right that during the meetings we probably need to have almost like a strictness on the policy a little bit more, where we're calling on people and we're actually, the board gets to speak completely on an agenda item, and then if it, and then again it kind of goes into this gray area with citizenry, whether they should be able to talk, or whether there should be um, you know, a time for people to talk on issues or whatever, how we create that policy, you know, in that gray area for each agenda item,
I just think there
because it,
isn't like gray area. Like we follow Robert's rules of procedure and order. Like we should just follow our rules
so
and
you're
procedures.
saying that citizens should not be able to speak on agenda items, or what I'm saying is,
They should be able to speak during like citizens comment and public comment. And one way to do that would be to move it to the end. If you feel like they don't have the ability to speak on everything in the each agenda item, if you move it towards the end, they can take notes during the meeting and bring up all of their points at that
I
time.
think if
I
we're going to do
don't
it that
think
way, I
I
think I was going to
I
say
oh
if we're
sorry.
if we're doing it that way, I think we should have it before and after, because we used to have it at the end. And what happened was people were trying to come in, and it was very disturbing because they would constantly come in looking for a time to speak. And
Thank you.
the reason why we moved it to the beginning of the meeting was so that people actually knew that if they came in early, they'd be able to speak, right away. So we should either have citizens comments, at both ends of the meeting, so that people can take notes if they're sitting in the agenda, and then they can speak to those agenda items later.
That makes sense to me. It's not that I don't want the citizens to have comment. That's how government works. That's important. It's just how it's done is really important as well. And I agree with you that it could be at the beginning and it could be at the end as well. I just think, our meetings would be more efficient if you were allowed to just talk as trustees. We wouldn't be there for 8 to 12 hours a meeting, getting off on tangents without that.
So the policy, I'd say, would be that if we have agenda items that are on there and people do want to speak on behalf of those, that they have to let you know maybe in advance that they want to speak on that agenda item.
100%. We also, that's why I have a request form for agenda items. Everyone's allowed to come into the office and ask for agenda items to be added. That's another way for the public to get engaged in the meeting as well. And that's an appropriate way for the public to be engaged.
So why don't we, work on that in our meetings where we're figuring out, because I do think there is some gray area in there, and maybe we when that gray area arises, we acknowledge that, so that we figure out some way of dealing with that. And maybe I'm wrong, but I do see points where like somebody's sitting there and they're needing to speak, but we should maybe set up a way that they can speak at the end of the discussion or something like that
Yeah,
before a motion.
respectfully, I just don't know that there is gray area. Like, there's no gray area for me. We've had to cancel meetings because things were not noticed appropriately. So I'm also kind of not understanding why, there's procedure for me that's not for everyone as well, when we're all
As
following the
far
same
as,
rule.
yes, Dennis.
Excuse me, yeah. Ariel has been getting the agendas out, I think at a pretty reasonable
I
time
agree.
before the meeting. And so if someone comes in cold, doesn't look at the agenda, and I would have to include some of the board members themselves, it's their own fault. I mean, that agenda is there. Read the agenda. You got an issue, bring it up at citizens' comments and be done with it. If something comes after that, well, then you're going to have to save it for the next meeting. I think there's plenty of time. So I wouldn't go for the one in the beginning and one at the end of the meeting deal.
All citizens have the ability to provide written comment to the clerk to be approved and included in the next meeting. So that is just another way to have citizens involvement.
So I guess, if our agenda is not coming out for, say, it comes out on a Friday and we have a Monday meeting, and then somebody reads the agenda and they have a correspondence that needs to go in, how does that play out? So what I'm saying is that if everybody has to turn in stuff, way beforehand so that they can be on the agenda, but then there's an agenda item that is controversial or somebody wants to speak on, so do we add it during the meeting? I mean, that's what I'm talking about, the gray area. There's not a lot of time necessarily for people to comment on an agenda item specifically. Yes, Kizen?
Well, I think we have citizens' comments and we do want to hear from our citizens. And I think if somebody has a chance to read the agenda and comes in and they want to speak, we're giving people the opportunity to do so. And I think during the course of the meeting, um, it it would be up to the mayor to make a decision. If somebody's raised their hand about something, maybe they have a real interest in this subject or a real knowledge about this subject, and you think their input could be valuable, then the mayor can make a decision whether or not you want to call on a particular person to have them give input on it. You have that authority. But I have found that the sometimes almost constant disruption in speaking, on commenting on what the board is trying to do. Most town councils don't allow that. I've been to other town councils, and it makes the meetings go on and on. It has a lot of back and forth. We get distracted from the work that we're trying to do. It becomes disruptive. And so I think it kind of, in a lot of ways, falls back on to the mayor to say, we've already heard from you on this subject matter. Or, you're a business in town and we're talking about such and such. They raise their hand. You might decide that they have something you think can really contribute to the conversation. But it doesn't mean that every time a person raises their hand that they get to take the floor and disrupt the work of the board. So it takes a sensitivity, I think, on the mayor's part. But at the same time, it really is up to setting guidelines to where we could proceed with the work that needs to be done and not have it just go on and on and on and be disruptive to getting the work done. So that would be my advice. Do the citizens' comments. If somebody said, hey, so-and-so on agenda item number 10, I have a vested interest on it. When it comes along, may I speak on it? You as the mayor can then say, yes, we'll give you a couple of minutes to speak on that because we know that you're involved with this. But not to just at every single agenda item feel like
I would agree. I would agree that we've had a little bit too much looseness in there, and I would like to change that. And I think we should maybe again review the policy a little bit more on citizens like bringing forth their agenda items. I think that people need to know exactly what we're trying to do here, whether it be if they're, for instance, in your clerk's report or clerk's what are you going to call it, the clerk's corner or something like that, you might say something about that, like if you need to bring something to the board to speak on, that you bring it X amount of days before, something like that, so that it's very clear to the citizens that they do get a chance to speak, but they have to speak in a particular setting that is created, something like that. I'm not exactly sure. I think a lot of it has come from us not having all the historical data that we need sometimes. And so, for instance, so I'll call on people to give us input on historical data, and maybe it's not totally always accurate, but sometimes it does give very good perspective. So we just need a way that is still allowed, but in a way that it is maybe more efficient or more regulated or something like that. I'm not exactly sure, how to do that. So I'm willing to work with you guys in the meetings, though. If you see something come up where, it's starting to get out of hand, make sure that you help me to pull it back and bring it back into alignment with our policy and our agenda.
It's fine with me.
So I need you guys a lot because I sometimes don't have a lot of I'm kind of a free flowing a little bit more than maybe other leaders would be. So I'm trying to be transparent. I'm trying to allow for citizens to be engaged, but I also know that it is distracting and is inefficient and sometimes very repetitive, as well as can be somewhat jarring to our nervous system once in a while. So we need to make sure that that's not happening. And as far as dealing with people in public on the property, I don't know exactly what to do. I know that we've had plenty of confrontations in our store where people are pissed off about something, and usually we have to trespass them and tell them that they're not welcome to act that way on the property. It is a private property open to the public. This is a public property open to the public. So it's two different things, but we need some way of actually putting up a boundary that is strong and fair and not, and just set that boundary completely.
So where are we at?
What do you guys think? I mean, do you want to have the ability, obviously, to just trespass people if it becomes too much of a problem?
Are you talking to us, any of us, or
Yeah, I
just
mean,
staff?
I don't know. I
could-
mean, yeah.
I could use that day we had the board meeting and the lady was like cursing out Patty, for example. If like, or if it was on the phone, I can understand people get mad, but if they're like just keep like reaming the staff, they could tell them just submit your complaint to the board. I'm done, I'm done talking to you,
Well, and that's it, Sean. I mean, it's become like part of the process. It's okay for me to go to town hall and scream my head off, and just upset everybody's day, and then it's like part of the program now. There's
Yeah,
no
I mean,
boundaries. There's no emotional regulation on these people. They're out of control. And
I just know
I'll
I
be
just seen
honest
that
with,
one lady.
pardon me?
I just saw that one lady is the only one I've seen, but I
This
haven't
is
been around
happening. No,
much.
this is happening more regularly,
Oh yeah,
Sean.
it's more than
Haven't
that.
been around much, so I
Yeah,
don't know as much as you
it's more
guys.
than that. It's much more than that. And then sometimes it spills off out into the street, and that's not right either, Uh, it's just total abuse of individuals is really what it is. And it's unkind, it's uncalled for. If a person can't regulate their own self, then maybe they should just avoid town hall at all, completely. Uh, I know we can't stop anyone from coming in, but it's definitely gone too far. It's definitely gone too far.
Yeah, like being verbally abusive consistently,
Yes.
I think they would be in their right to just say, submit it in writing to the board, your complaint, I can't deal with you anymore. But I know people yell, but someone who's being consistently abusive, verbally abusive, that could be an option. I don't know if it's legal or not, but that's what I would like to know. I know in person it's legal, you said, to tell them to please leave and submit your complaint to the board. But if someone's like cursing you out on the phone, is that okay too to say? Or
I don't know if anyone's seeing what Dan Gray is writing across the screen
Yeah.
here. Yeah. About
I
body
don't
cams,
see.
or even cameras in the building. Thanks, Dan. That's probably a good idea.
Yeah,
I
I
don't know
saw
if-
that pop up earlier. That seems like a good idea too.
Yeah, I don't know if we can afford it, but yeah, it's a good idea.
And I would like to just add to that we have lost good staff because of how they were treated by the public. We've lost good people.
Mhm.
And I don't want that to happen. I feel like we need to protect our staff, and people should deal with our staff in a civil manner. Bullying is not allowed, and I think it's really important that we make sure that our staff um, doesn't have an unpleasant workplace. So what we can do, I'd like to see this meeting wrap up here. Ariel said that she would bring some proposals to the board, and I think we could look at it further. And if our attorney has any materials that maybe he could send our way, or ways that we could deal with it, I'd appreciate it. But if we could wrap this meeting up, I got supper about ready to hit the
I gotta
table.
make dinner for my daughter too, or buy dinner. I don't know
Well,
what she wants.
I would just say in the meantime, all the suggestions that you've heard, we need to, the staff should take that into account. We'll have to bring it to the next meeting. There's really not much we can do in between except, be witnesses to whatever's happening. So I would say, have cameras ready if you need, because every bit of information is important, and it kind of like gives, some substance to the activity, or it doesn't give substance. It gives, a witnessing, or usually when people are being camera, they back off. So use your camera, I would say, for, in the meantime, and just do your best to keep your boundaries up, because that's all we can do. That's all we can. I mean, we're all vulnerable as human beings. It's just the nature of being alive. We're, there's definitely going to be vulnerabilities in our lives, and we just have to create our boundaries the best we can, and we'll help you. We have to do it in open public meetings. It's unfortunate, but it's true. So I look forward to seeing Brent's letter. I look forward to seeing Ariel's suggestions and the attorney's suggestions.
I just want to say, I think what I'll do is I've already sent our attorney the letter, and I will send all the board members this letter. Does that sound right, Mayor? Ariel?
Send it to Ariel and let her pass it on to everybody.
Okay, then she's got it and she can send it then.
Okay.
And I did mention in my email to you guys that I would be letting you know more about incidents in the office, whatever they may be. So just that you guys aren't blindsided by internal, sorry, I lost my words, by internal
Conflicts.
conflicts or goings on.
That's great. And, don't hesitate to send out a message if you want us there too. I mean, I can run over there also. I'd rather not.
I managed a bar. I know how to bounce people.
Yeah, would prefer not to have to do it. And
would prefer not to have to bounce people the ways I've had to in the past.
Our personnel policy does have section 10, which describes workplace violence. It also has procedures to address harassment and bullying in the workplace, and procedures to address workplace violence. So just a good place to start where we're at, and we can discuss those.
I'll take those into account with my proposal for sure.
Right. So I think we've satisfied this agenda. If there's anything else, which I don't think we have on our agenda, let's see. I
believe that was all.
All the reports will come up, no correspondence. So I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second that motion.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, Seth. Thank you, citizens. Thank you, everybody, for being here. And we'll see you on Tuesday. We have something. Tuesday, there's a budget thing happening at 3:00.
Right on. Okay. Have a good evening, everyone.
Bye.
Good weekend, everybody.